It could be fate, but for me personally, I can vividly remember the shot that I feel kind of kept my card for that season. We were playing a tournament at Euphoria, which is out in Bella area in the middle of nowhere. Always massive rain delays and stuff like that. And I had a putt. We had to come back the following day to play the final hole of the tournament because of the weather. And I made a putt from 12 foot for par on my last hole. And that was maybe the second or third to last event of the season. But for me, that putt was the reason I kept my card. And I was actually playing with the guy who ended up finishing 101.
Wow.
So for me, it's just, it's a vivid memory of that season. And I think it is probably fate. But when you hear the term, like every shot counts, it literally does.
Hello everybody, first of all, Happy New Year. All the best for 2026. Thank you for your support throughout the year last year, and looking forward to another fantastic year of learning and growing together on the show. On the show today with me is professional golfer, friend and client, Michael Hollick. Mike turned pro back in 2011, and after more than a decade grinding on the Sunshine Tour, he's recently earned his DP World Tour card for the first time. In this conversation, we go deep into the season where his career was hanging by a thread, how close he came to losing his Sunshine Tour card, as well as the uncomfortable changes he had to make and what ultimately helped him turn his career around. We also unpack how his mindset has evolved as he's diversified his income, reducing pressure on performance, and how becoming a father to 2 daughters has reshaped the way he approaches both golf and life. This is a powerful lesson on patience, adaptation, freedom, and perspective, and building a career that can survive in the long run. Thank you so much for listening. If you like it, please share it. On with the show. Mike, welcome to the show, man. Season's greetings, Merry Christmas, all the rest.
Thanks, Clint.
Yeah.
Nice to be here.
Yeah, it's my absolute pleasure to have you, dude. I've had the privilege of working with you on and off, but consistently for the last 2 years, and it's been so wonderful to see how, particularly the last 2 months, have panned out for you. But it's been such a journey, dude.
Yeah,
it's been a proper journey. Going back to Sunshine Tour, I think you turned pro and you got your card on the Sunshine Tour in 2011.
Yeah.
Tell me about where we find ourselves now and bringing that back to where it started in 2011.
Yeah, so, starting out in 2011, I was kind of late to turning pro. I was 25 years old at the time. I had a good junior career, a good amateur career, but after school, when a lot of the guys were either going off to college or even turning pro at 18 or 19, my dad said to me, no, you've got to go to university and study. I had the opportunity to go to the States, and I never went, and I ended up studying in Durban. So yeah, by the time I finished my degree, I was 23, and then I played like a year of amateur golf and then only turned pro at 25. So this is now my 14th season as a professional. So yeah, I mean, it has been a long career, with a lot of ups, far more downs, far more sort of positions of kind of breaking in a professional sense. But yeah, where we are now is hopefully on the up and continuing to go on the up.
Yeah. What was the lowest point?
I had many sort of tough times as a pro. I think every pro does. I don't think anyone's exempt from that. But I would say the lowest point was probably the 2022 season, where I finished the last event for me, which was the Players' Championship on the Sunshine Tour, and missed the cut. And at that stage, I was sort of just inside the top 100 on the ranking, and the top 100 guys keep their cards. And I missed the cut, like I say, and wasn't sure if I was going to stay in the top 100 or not. And in all likelihood, it looked like I was going to finish 101 or 102. And Gina, my wife, and I were going on honeymoon the week after that Players' Championship. And I missed the cut. And then the reality kind of hit me as, right, could be the end of the pro golfing or tour player career. And it looked like I was going to finish 101, 102. So I spoke to Gina, spoke to my dad. My dad said, listen, if you don't keep your card, I think it's time to pack it in. You know, you've had 9-10 years of it. There's been good times, but, you know, in reality, professional golf is a job. And I wasn't 22 years old anymore. I was in my 30s. There's bills to pay. Just got married. He just said, you know, if you can't keep your card, then maybe you just don't have what it takes to kind of make a really good career out of it. And I spoke to Gina and I said, listen, if I lose my card, I've got to go to Q school or pack it in. Only problem was Q school was the same time as our honeymoon that we had planned. So, you know, her being the supportive wife that she is, she said, listen, if you want to go to Q school, we can cancel the honeymoon, like I'm happy, but you need to decide what you want to do. And basically, I mean, I'd had the chat with the Sunshine Tour to find out sort of how I go about entering, or, you know, what the story is. And we basically said, like, let's just call it a day on the golf. And we went off on our honeymoon. And as it was, I finished 100th on the button by less than half a point. So over a whole season, less than half a point is probably maybe a shot.
One shot over an entire season?
Over an entire season. That season, I had only played probably half of the events in the schedule. And yeah, I mean, it was literally a miracle to finish in the top 100. And I would say that was probably the lowest point of my professional career. Like I said, there had been plenty of them. But I think facing that reality of giving up on your life's work, essentially, you know, I'd been playing golf since I was 6 years old. I'd represented my province, my country. I'd won the South African boys under 19 final against Brandon Grace, who, you know, is a household name in the golfing world. So I'd done all these things and reached all the sort of milestones that you would like to tick off.
Yeah, these markers that you were competent and you were going to turn it into something.
Yeah, and then the reality was, like, I'm going to go and do something else. I'm going to go and work or whatever that might be. So that was quite a challenging moment, I would say, to kind of deal with that reality. But it is the reality. Like I say, golf is a job. And, you know, if you can't do it well, I mean, if you had a delivery business and you weren't making many deliveries and you're running at a loss year after year, you can't really carry on. The money dries up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's the interesting part about the Sunshine Tour, and I suppose it's the same with many tours, but to keep it local, every single week there's always that carrot dangling in front of you. So I've seen it many times when you've got a pro golfer who's good enough to keep his card every year, but not good enough to break through to get to the next level
Yeah.
or to live a sustainable lifestyle financially.
Yeah.
And every single week, there's that new opportunity. And I can imagine for a golfer, it's like, okay, well, what am I most competent at? Okay, well, the answer is I'm most competent at golf.
Yeah.
Because I've been investing all my time and energy since I was 12
Yeah.
in this thing. And, okay, well, what is my best possible opportunity to get some money? It still is
Golf.
go to the next week.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, that flows into a year, becomes 3 years, becomes 5 years, becomes 32, 33 years old, still on the Sunshine Tour, still keeping the card, but still not making any headway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what I think it means to be like a Sunshine Tour journeyman,
Yeah.
for example. And it's a remarkable decision that a person has to make when they reach that fork in the road, when it's like, okay, at what stage do I then try and pursue something else?
Yeah. I think now, sort of the last 2 years or so on the Sunshine Tour, there's a lot more money that is being played for. So I think there are more guys now that can make a career out of the Sunshine Tour and actually live off the Sunshine Tour, whereas I would say from 2022 going back to the 2000s, there was maybe 10, 15 guys who were making a sustainable living. And when I say living, you know, you've got maybe a family that you've got to pay for, and you've got a house and school fees and medical aids and stuff. If you're a single guy, you know, and you're happy to just travel week to week, and that suits you, then that's cool. But yeah, there's more to that than sort of just traveling, playing golf. You've also got a life to live, and the reality for golfers is, you know, by the time you get to 50, 55 years old, you're not really beating the 25-year-olds anymore. But you've also still got another 30 years of your life to live, and that requires money.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a tough profession, and it is only a small amount of people who end up making it. But like I say, everyone's got their own levels to sort of what they see as a sustainable life or an enjoyable life. I think some people aim higher than others. Other people are just sort of happy to be where they are and, you know, go week to week, and that's also fine.
Yeah. What are the misconceptions that people might have about being a professional golfer?
I think majority of people, and I mean, I know this because I also watch golf tournaments on TV. If you're watching a golf tournament, you're only seeing 10 guys every week who are doing really, really well. And for those guys who are doing really, really well, it's a nice life. Things are going well. You're earning a hell of a lot of money. And, you know, the top guys they live like kings. I mean,
They're making bombs.
Yeah,
especially since Liv.
Yeah, they make massive, massive amounts of money. You know, they're traveling around on private jets. They all drive nice cars. So life is good for them. But that is the 5 or 10%. I mean, on the official world golf rankings, there must be over 3,000 golfers ranked. And those are just the professional golfers. Then there's a whole bunch of guys who are still trying to kind of get to that level to get onto the rankings, who are playing mini tours and stuff like that. So there are thousands and thousands of golfers all trying to make it. And the reality is there are 1,000, maybe 1,500 of them who are all equally as good. Sometimes you don't get a break. Sometimes you have the opportunity and you don't take it. And things can change very quickly in the professional golfing space. You know, a matter of weeks can change your life. Whereas you can have 10 years of mediocre stuff and you just never really get anywhere.
Yeah. You spoke a bit about makes me think of luck. What do you put that down to, that season, that 2022 season where you finished 100 on the button? Is that luck? Is it destiny? Is it fate? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, it could be fate, but for me personally, I can vividly remember the shot that I feel kind of kept my card for that season. We were playing a tournament at Euphoria, which is out in Bella Bella area in the middle of nowhere. Always massive rain delays and stuff like that. And I had a putt. We had to come back the following day to play the final hole of the tournament because of the weather. And I made a putt from 12 foot for par on my last hole. And that was maybe the second or third to last event of the season. But for me, that putt was the reason I kept my card. And I was actually playing with the guy who ended up finishing 101.
Wow.
So for me, it's just, it's a vivid memory of that season. And I think it is probably fate. But when you hear the term, like every shot counts, it literally does.
And especially when you start to do the maths, we hear it's a cliche now, but get 1% better every day and see where you end up.
Yeah.
If you look at in the golfing sphere, let's say you shoot 72 for 4 rounds, that's 288. If you're improving by one shot a round, that's I think it's about 1.38% of an improvement, and then add that up over the season.
That's massive.
And so, like, when people don't realize, I think this is probably the one thing that I would say about professional golf and the misconception is an amateur golfer can go through his round at any stage and go through and reflect and go through 6 to 8 shots where he's left shots out on the course.
Yeah.
And you'll understand this because you do coaching as well.
Yeah.
But that's like kind of neither here nor there for them. When we're talking about a professional golfer, we're talking about one shot. And that one shot every round, that 1.38% compounding over a season is the difference between being Sunshine Tour and DP World Tour, keeping your card, losing your card, missing the cut, making the cut. And that's 1.38% per round, and you're competing against 150 other golfers, of which 3,000 in the world are professional.
Yeah.
So let's say if you're in the top 300 in the world, you're in the top 10% of pro golfers.
Yeah.
Competing for that 1%, that one shot every round.
Yeah.
It's like, when you start to run the numbers, it's bonkers.
No, it is.
Actually, the fine margins.
No, it is.
And yours takes it to the next level when it's like, well, that one shot over an entire season.
No, it is. And, I mean, I've been guilty of it in my earlier sort of playing days, but I see it happen often when I play with youngsters. Like, the frustration builds during a round, and you'll have an 8-foot putt, and you miss the putt, and it's gone like less than a foot away from the hole. Maybe it's gone 10 inches, and you'll walk up to tap it in, and you miss it because you're not really concentrating. You're pissed off, and you miss that putt. And I mean, I know for myself, I've done that 2 or 3 times over the last 10 years, and it literally got to playing the second round, finishing the second round, and you miss the cut by one shot. And you sit there going, like, why did you do that? That's like so stupid.
Yeah.
The older you get, you learn not to do that. Like, I don't do that anymore. If I've got a putt that I think, okay, like it's just outside of that zone to walk up and hit it in, I'll just put a coin, wait, take my time, knock it in. Because I know how important that one shot could end up being.
Yeah, that you're so right, man. But it's about, in sport and in performance, it's always about the process and not about the result.
Yeah.
The result comes as a byproduct of the process, and people talk about it in golfing terms as a pre-shot routine. You can use it, and that's on a micro scale. You then take that to a macro level. Okay, well, how does your life look?
Yeah.
What do you eat? How well do you sleep? How much water do you drink? How often are you training?
Yeah.
Are you doing some kind of mental wellness like meditation? How intentional are you with your practice? All of those things at a macro level is about the process, and then the byproduct of that is the results. And I think not enough people are as invested in the process as they are invested in the result.
100%, yeah.
Because the result is the Instagram picture with the trophy and the bank balance going up and the sponsorships and the this and the that and the next thing. But you don't get that without the process.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's easier said than done. But I can also say that from my experience over the last 14 years, I would say the last 3 years has been my most consistent sort of golf in terms of tournament play, making cuts, having top 10s, wins, whatever. I would say the last 3 years I've been far more relaxed in terms of how I go about doing things. However, I still tick all the boxes that I need to tick. I'm not as pedantic about the things that I do leading up to a golf tournament or in my preparation as I maybe was 5 or 10 years ago. Because I also think you can try and be too perfect. And when you try to be too perfect and you try and have everything lined up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 every single time, and then you don't get results, you start questioning and you go, well, how does John keep doing well? I mean, the oak smokes and he drinks every day. He doesn't ever go to the gym. I'm going to bed early, I'm training, I'm reading psychology books. You're doing all of those things because you think you must do those in order to get results, but it's not how it works with golf, unfortunately. There's many shapes and sizes that can do well in golf. There's also many different ways to skin the cat in golf. A perfect golf swing is not going to determine how good your results are. So that's something I've learned in the last 3 years for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. My observations of you in the last 2 years in particular has been that you figured out what works for you. And I think that is the key, because once you figure out what works for you, something that I took away from my interview with Oscar Chalupsky, he said that practice doesn't make perfect, practice makes permanent.
Yeah.
So if you know what it is that you need to work on, if you're intentional about what it is that works for you, you can get the work done in a much smaller amount of time than grinding 8 hours on the range. Practicing may be something that isn't really necessary. Yeah. And in actual fact, maybe practicing something that's only going to make the problem worse.
It can be.
And grinding for the sake of grinding.
Yeah.
Rather than, I'm going to be very intentional about the next 2 hours, for example, and I know that exactly what I need to work on. Yeah. And what I work on is going to reinforce this practice is going to make permanent. And I think that is the big thing, because and that's where you can allow yourself the space to be a little bit more flexible, mentally speaking, in terms of a build-up and a prep. Yeah. Where if somebody is very mentally regimental and something doesn't go according to plan, then if you're not mentally strong, then a person can be quite fragile in that respect, where now I didn't tick that box and I didn't tick that, and now because that has happened, I now know I'm going to play crap, for example. So for me, you've figured out what has worked for you, but at the same time, your family's grown. Yeah. So, I mean, I take it back to that 24-25 season when you won in Zim. That was almost 2 years ago now. And that was kind of the start of it. You were trending nicely, but then that was really like, okay, when you're in the game now, big time, you got the win, or your second win on tour, but that was really kicked off and started the season well. But one might look from the outset and be like, okay, well, Mike's playing the best golf he's ever played. He's now got DP World Tour status. He's ninth on the DP Tour Order of Merit. But at the same time, there's a gym, there's a wife, and now there's 2 kids. So the demand of your time now, ironically, is far greater and pulling you in different directions, yet you're able to get better results on the golf course.
Yeah. So, I mean, 2 things I was going to say is going back to being regimental and whatever. I played now in Mauritius, and I played with John Parry, who has had a massive sort of resurgence in his career in the last 2 years. I think he's won 3 or 4 times on the DP World Tour. And when we were playing, I said to him, you know, what's been the change? Because he lost his card even on the Challenge Tour.
Really?
Yeah.
Sure.
So he had gone from a long career on the DP World Tour to, you know, losing everything and then finding his way back. And he said he actually just found something watching some random video. And he just thought, right, that makes sense to me. And he stuck with it. And he didn't try and change anything. He stuck to that same thing, and he did it over and over and over and over again. But going back to the practice story, we both agreed, because we have kind of been on similar paths, I would say, the last few years in terms of the scale of our careers. But he was just saying now, like, when he goes to tournaments, he doesn't need to hit balls for 4 or 5 hours in practice, because he knows what he's trying to do, he knows what he's working on. And he says if he plays around a golf and it doesn't go well, he doesn't need to go to the range for 2 hours afterwards and hit balls, because he's not looking for something. He's not searching. And that's kind of like the space that I feel that I'm in after working with my coach now since 2020. We have a blueprint. We know what works for me. We just stick to that, and it's always the same stuff. So for me to do 40 minutes of practice is far better than 5-6 years ago, where I would sort of guilt practice and force myself onto the range for hours on end, because growing up you are told that you must practice for 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
It's just not how it works. You don't need to practice for 10 hours a day. But then going back to what you're saying with my personal life is, you know, I've got a supportive wife, I've got 2 kids, we've got a gym that we own and a business. So I do have these other interests, and golf is not the be-all and the end-all of my life. And I think that has made the biggest difference. When we came back to Durban from Joburg and I started coaching, must be over 3 years ago now. I think that was sort of the tipping point to my career, because coaching is not easy. It's difficult to stand out there in the sun all day. You're teaching men, women, different skill levels. Yeah. It's not easy, and it's not always rewarding. And I think when I started doing that, I really got an appreciation for what it is like to travel and play professional golf, and to be in the spotlight, and to be able to play in front of people, and to compete. Competing, you know, for some people, that is what gets them going. And I've always been very competitive in whatever sport or activity that I've done. So being able to go and compete for me, after I've done 3 or 4 weeks of coaching, it's like time out. It's more of a relaxing environment for me.
Yes.
So that has probably been, I would say, the biggest change is getting into that environment, getting that appreciation for playing, but also for me a hell of a lot of learning along the way, learning how to coach, learning how to communicate with people, because I can't talk to someone who's starting golf with the same knowledge, or I can't verbalize what's going on in my head because they won't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So it is
That's
very
the art
much
of teaching.
Yeah, it is very much a constant learning process. But I think being in the golfing environment and coaching other people, you become very aware of what you're doing yourself. Because I'm always reinforcing things with people when I'm coaching them. When I'm out on the course, I'm never getting over a shot and just like standing there and hitting the shot. I'm almost ticking those same boxes that I'm telling my students to do when I'm coaching them.
Yeah.
So I think that has been a real big change in my playing career, is the fact that I've been coaching for a while now.
So there's a lovely quote: "If you want to learn, teach." And it's exactly there what you've just said.
Yeah.
And secondly, the irony of life is you only get to truly enjoy something for what it is retrospectively. So you can only appreciate what it's like to be in high school with all your buddies and playing team sport together when you're out of high school. You can only enjoy what it's like to be in your 20s when you're in your 30s. You can only learn and appreciate what it's like to be in your 30s when you're in your 50s or 40s. And so there's an element of that with you, but you've been able to have your cake and eat it.
Yeah.
Where you've scraped through, you've kept the card, you've gone into the coaching,
Yeah.
and then you've been able to learn through teaching and then apply that to your own game, and then now obviously things have kicked off.
Yeah, I think one of my friends that I travel with, I won't mention any names in case he listens to this, but he always used to say to me, those who can't play, teach. So I've kind of broken that mold for him a little bit, but we do always have a bit of a laugh about that.
Yeah.
But I think it's definitely something that I would say more people need to do in whatever your business is or whatever your passion is. If you can teach someone, I think your level of understanding grows, and it goes up a lot. It's all very well being able to do something subconsciously. And Steve Cottingham, who owns the driving range at Mount Edgecombe, who's been teaching for 30 odd years all over the world, when I started out at the range, he said to me, don't communicate with people as if you were talking to someone of a like mind in terms of golf. Because he said, if I ask you right now, and this was like one of our first days at the range, he said to me, how do you make a backswing? And it seems like a simple question, but for a good golfer, you don't really know how you make a backswing, you just make a backswing.
Yeah.
It's a subconscious thing. So then being able to break that down into elements to teach someone so that they can understand it, I think that's where your knowledge really grows. And I think that's definitely something that's helped me.
So there seems to be like this simplification of the way that you approach the game, a simplification of the way that you approaching life as well. You're setting up other avenues of earning potential. Bringing it back to being a family man and your young family, how has being a father changed your mindset at all in terms of how you approach the game and you think of life and your career and what that has in store for you?
I would say I'm far more relaxed and patient now in a golfing sense when I'm playing and I'm out on the course or I'm preparing for a tournament. I'm definitely more relaxed than I used to be. I think I used to be a lot more intense, and I definitely was impatient. I think I've learned a lot more patience. And to be honest, whenever things get kind of tough on the golf course and I'm going through a little rough patch of a few holes or whatever, I literally will just think of my daughters back home. Our first girl, Livy, who's, she's over 2 years old now, but I would just think of if she was there with me on the golf course, like she wouldn't really know or care
Yeah.
if things were going well or badly. And that is the reality to golf, is you are going to play badly sometimes. That's just how it is. But you're not going to die if you hit a bad shot. No one's going to get hurt. Your life is not going to change. And I've often thought about that in the last 2-3 years playing golf tournaments, and you get that like real intense pressure, and you can kind of feel the haze building up, because it's quite a nerve-wracking thing. Playing professional golf it's difficult mentally. Your body is under a lot of stress for quite a long period of time, but there are often shots that are very, very demanding. And I think being able to acknowledge that, yes, it is tough, but the worst thing that can happen is you can hit a bad shot. I think it's quite calming, or for me it is anyway.
And do you think that is in part a result of being a dad?
Yeah, I think so. I think your perspective on life and what you're doing changes. You realize that your job is just a small part of your life, and there's so much more that you can do, sort of going back home in terms of your family, which is a lot more important. Obviously, we all want to do well, and we want to succeed, because we want to provide for our families and whatever. But when you've got young kids, and it will change as they get older. But when they're young, they just want to have fun, and they want to laugh, and they want to be with you all the time.
Yeah.
They don't really care if you do well or don't do well. That's not important to them. So, yeah, definitely that aspect of being a father has settled me, and like I say, I am a lot more patient than I used to be.
There's this underlying theme of a complete shift of perspective. So the shifting in perspective of how you approach the game with your coaching, and how that flows over into how you approach the game for yourself, and then the change in perspective about what's happening in tournament rounds. Like the word that you used was haze, which was such a good word, because for a golfer who plays enough, amateur or professional, we can all resonate with the haze. Whether it's you've got a 10-10 20-10 with your local buddy, and you've got to flip and make a par on the last hole, or you've got a tough shot that you've got to hit, or if it's your club champs, or if it's IPT, or whatever the case might be, we can all resonate with that word, that haze. And I think the unique thing about golf is that you've got so much time in between shots for that haze to set in. Like if you're on a rugby field, if you're batting, you've got split seconds, you're responding to a stimulus, either it's a bowler, or you're responding to the ball, or to the player that's in front of you. You don't have time to think about all this other stuff.
No.
Whereas golf, it's like this weird, it's like sadistic joke, where you've got as much time as you want to think about whatever you want.
And you see it with guys who are sort of preparing for their club championships. And I often have guys who will come for lessons for 3 or 4 months before club champs, because club champs is coming up, and they really want to do well, and they play great leading up to it, and club champs comes, and you see them after round 1, and it didn't go so well. Shot 85, made a 10, made a 9 on this hole. I had 5 3 putts, and that is the reality of golf. Is I think we build it up so much that you never have freedom to just express yourself and play. And for me, like I was saying earlier, I was always someone who wanted to have the perfect warm-up, and then I had to have all my sort of ducks in a row lined up. When I started coaching and I started going to play tournaments, I would arrive at the tournament the day before the tournament started. Sometimes I'd play 9 holes as a practice round, sometimes I wouldn't. First round would come, my warm-up would consist of maybe 20 20 shots just to loosen up, because it is a warm-up, it's not a practice session. And I just think I was so free, and also wasn't really caring too much about the result, because coaching was my sort of bread and butter at that stage. And, it was like, well, I'm coaching now, so, to go and play golf is going to be fun. And I think that is kind of what started things off in the right way for me. It's like I've had a second career with a different attitude and a different mindset, and it's definitely paid off the last 3 years, the way things have gone.
Freedom and perspective are the two things that pop up quite a lot here.
Yeah.
Something that has struck me as well is the certain mindset shifts around when you decide to do something. So, for example, when you arrive at gym, you very seldom arrive at the time the session is supposed to start. You arrive 10 to 15 minutes before that. When you played in Saudi, when you headed out onto that run, going into Aussie and then coming back, missed the cut in Saudi. Off the back, prior to that, you MC'd at Alfred Dunhill. So you got those two back to back, but instead, after you missed cut in Saudi, you went into the gym.
Yeah.
And I mean, you called it punishment for missing the gym. I mean, for missing the cut.
Yeah.
But I said to you at that time, that is what is the dedication to the process, because you don't know whether or not that might be the 1% difference between you feeling better traveling east to go to Oz, and that might be the difference between that one shot, because you recovered a bit better, because you felt a bit stronger, even if it doesn't have anything to do with the body. Maybe just mentally, because you worked out after the MC, you were able to just move past that a little bit faster.
Definitely.
So, and those are the things that then build and set you on this different trajectory.
Yeah, and now these last couple of weeks, and obviously in Australia, Rory McIlroy was there, and you see his level of dedication to his craft. He was in the gym most days when I was in there, because we kind of had similar, well, on the weekend we had similar tee-off times, but prior to the event, I mean, he would be practicing, he would play his practice round, and then I'd see him in the locker room, and he's changed into his gym gear at 5:30 p.m., 6 p.m., and he's going across the road into the players' gym to do a workout with his trainer, and that's on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. And when you look at guys like that, someone who's been certainly in the top 3 best players for the last 15 years, I think he has been able to stay at the top for so long because his processes are so good, like we were saying earlier about sticking to the process and whatever. But I think those are just the boxes that he knows he has to tick all the time. And there's no luck involved when you are doing that. Obviously, he's a phenomenal golfer. But I think off the golf course, he does so much so that his preparation is good all the time. It's not like he has 1 week where he really puts a big focus in and then he kind of taps off for a few weeks. I just think it's always the same thing. And he's in a position that he doesn't have to play as many weeks as most other pros play. But he's still traveling all over the world, and he's still doing the same thing every single event that he knows works for him. For me, when I walked in here earlier, I was saying my training had been so good on the road for those first 5 weeks. But once that sort of ball starts rolling, it kind of wants to keep rolling on its own. It's not... my wife... Gina is a psychologist, and she always says, in particular with training, don't ever miss more than 2 days without doing some form of exercise, because when you get to the 3rd or the 4th day, it's easy for that to turn into 10 days of no training. Whereas keep going all the time, you are just in that routine, and it kind of becomes the norm. So for me, that's been good. And like you said earlier on the podcast, we've been training, don't want to say religiously, but regularly when I'm home for the last 2 years, and I think it's definitely helped. Whereas I would say years gone by I was probably training more for the aesthetics of training, whereas now we train for performance and what's going to make me function when I need to function.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big thing is not necessarily training for the sake of training, but actually to train the right departments and the right areas that need to be done.
Yeah, because that's what ultimately is going to pay the bills, and that's what's going to get you what you want, which is to play the best possible golf.
And to play for as long as possible.
Yeah.
That's, and I'm 38 now, so I'm constantly thinking like, right, how many good years have I got left realistically? Because I'm a late developer. That is just how it's been. When I played sport at school, I would never be in the first cricket team straight off the bat. I'd get there halfway through the season. When I went to university, I never just cracked it straight off the bat. Took me a bit longer. Seems my professional golf career is the same. But I'm also in the frame of mind that where I am now, I would like to have as much longevity as possible. And I think, going back to the training, I think if you train correctly, there's no reason for a 43-year-old to not feel like a 35-year-old.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at in terms of the training side.
So, yeah, there's a few examples there. Like McIlroy as a great example. He's hitting the ball further than he's ever hit it. And I think he's my age. Maybe he's 1 year younger. So he must be about 35, 34, maybe, 35.
Yeah.
So, and that is the compounding interest of the training that he's done over the last 10 years.
Padraig Harrington is a senior golfer now, and he's hitting it the furthest he's ever hit it.
Yeah, perfect example.
So you can train these things in golf.
Vijay Singh is another one. Yeah. That 2008 season, 2008, I think Stevie Williams, they asked him once who Tiger considered to be his biggest rival. And he said, without question, it wasn't Ernie, it wasn't Phil, it was Vijay, when Vijay was performing at the peak of his powers. I think that one season he picked up 8 or 9.
Yeah, Tiger couldn't beat him.
Yeah. And I mean, that oak trains like a machine.
Yeah, he does.
Like, he's a proper machine.
Yeah.
He leaves nothing on the table. So that's the beauty of golf, though, is here you are, turned pro 2011, getting DP World Tour status 14 years later, and still in a position now where you're in a window where you can still maximize that to the best of your ability, going into finishing off the 30s and going into your 40s.
Yeah.
I want to bring it back to something you said earlier about skipping 2 workouts, never skipping 2 days.
Yeah.
There's a big thing about how we process things and how we run our lives. And the question I often ask people is, what is your default setting? And I learned this on a previous episode with a lady called Zanele Njapa, who's called the Unlearning Lady. And we can read all the books. We can listen to all the podcasts. We can do all the gym. We can hit all the balls. But if we'll only know if that is working when you're in a state of uncomfortability or discomfort, because that is when you're going to resort to your default setting. Yeah. So what is the default setting? The default setting might be self-doubt. It might be focusing on what you don't want to happen versus what you want to happen. It might be, what do people think of me? Take your pick. But the only time you find out if the things that you're doing are making a difference is in those areas and zones of discomfort. Yeah. That's where you find out what your default setting is. And the only way that you change your default setting is by getting involved in the process. So, for example, my default setting with respect to gym is that it's just a part of my life. Like, gym is a default setting of mine. I very seldom, unless I go away, and I don't have access to a gym, will a week go by where I don't train?
Yeah.
There will just always be a time in the day where I'll do some exercise.
Yeah.
If it's in the gym, if it's playing touch rugby, if it's going for a swim, whatever the case might be, it is just so in me now that there's just no way that it's not going to be there. And that takes years and years and years of that's just accepting now what's part of my life.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it means to turn pro.
Yeah.
So you turned pro according to a status
Yeah.
in 2011.
Yeah.
But the mindset shift of turning pro might not have happened in 2011.
No. Yeah.
Maybe that only happened years down the line.
Yeah.
Through trial and error, making mistakes, back against the wall sort of stuff, whatever triggered it. But this is your job, man.
Yeah.
Like you've got to turn pro mentally.
Yeah.
This is your livelihood. What I do in the gym, this is my livelihood. If I don't know what to do, I have to go find out what to do.
Yeah.
I have to read a book, I have to phone somebody, I have to figure it out. Because that's what it means to be a professional.
No, for sure, yeah.
And that is something that I see it time and time again. The nature of golf is such that you are your own boss.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is such a unique dynamic. It's similar to tennis, but it's such a unique dynamic when you compare it to other sports where you're not your own boss when you're in a rugby field, when you're playing cricket, or when you're playing soccer. Your boss is your coach.
Yeah.
People pay you a salary. So there's that immediate accountability, like, okay, if you don't get picked, we decide whether or not you get picked. If you don't toe the line, then you don't get a match bonus, then you don't get this, then you lose your contract. Golfing, it's the complete opposite, where you are the boss. You employ the trainer.
Yeah.
You employ the coach.
Yeah.
You employ the physio or the dietitian. So there's a level of discipline and accountability that the athlete has to hold themselves accountable to.
Yeah, there definitely is. And now, based off what you say there, I would say for me the most important person that I've had in terms of my golf now the last couple of years has been my coach, Neil Cheetham. Because for me, I'm not the kind of person that can kind of just go and do it on my own. I need someone to say, right, this is what you need to do, go do that. I'm very good at doing that if someone tells me to go do it. And for me, he's been such a good mentor because he was an ex-tour player. He had played on the European tour for many years. When I started out on the Sunshine Tour, he was kind of finishing off his playing career. He's from England, but he's been living in South Africa now for 20 odd years. And he's been involved in the coaching space for a while. I think he was the first guy in South Africa to use the TrackMan. And he's been a member of the PGA of Great Britain since 1986 or something. So he really is a good mentor. And for me to have someone as a sounding board and someone that I can phone or message and say, Cheats, I played and I actually can't handle this anymore. Like, if I have to carry on playing like this, like, I'm done. And he'll go, calm down, we'll chat tomorrow. And that will be that. And when I speak to him the next day on a video call, he'll say, okay, right, understand what you're saying, blah, blah, blah. This is what we need to do. I promise you, you're not far away. And for me, that has been like the biggest difference in terms of playing. Even now, the first week in Australia, I played in Brisbane. And I just missed the cut. I think I missed the cut by a shot there. And I was so frustrated because the week before I was in Saudi Arabia and I just missed the cut there. And I felt like I was playing quite well those 2 weeks. But every round I would make a double bogey or a triple bogey out of nowhere. And I would hit a few shots that I'd be like, that's the worst shot I've hit for the last 3 years. And when I spoke to him after that tournament in Brisbane, and I spoke to my dad as well, and I said, like, it really is frustrating because I feel like I'm playing well, but I'm just not quite there. And I was playing well 6 months ago. Why was I playing well 6 months ago during the winter tour? Why can't I be playing well now while we're playing for $5 million? Like, that would be nice. And Neil said to me, he just said, mate, it's not far off. He said, I promise you, a little bit of work this weekend, it's going to click. And we did 2 or 3 sort of online coaching sessions in Brisbane, video lessons for 25 minutes or whatever, hitting balls, and he was watching. And then obviously the week in Melbourne, I had a great week, and I played pretty flawless golf for 4 rounds under very testing conditions and in a very demanding environment with the amount of people there were, something that I'm not used to at all, playing in front of that many people. And I really played unbelievably good golf. And had I not had him there to kind of communicate with for the 2 weeks prior to that, I'm not so sure things would have gone the way they did, because I might have been looking elsewhere in my golf swing, or trying to change something that didn't really need to be changed. So having a mentor, and in business, I've got friends who are in business, and they're in the corporate world. All of them who are even in sort of director, executive levels, they will have a mentor. And you have to have a mentor. You have to have someone that can give you that peace of mind when you start to kind of overthink things. And it's far easier, I think, for someone to look at a situation from an outside perspective than for you to try and navigate doing things on your own.
Yeah, just to separate the
emotion
wood from the trees.
Yeah, without a doubt. So for me, him being a mentor and obviously a brilliant coach, but just to have that sounding board and someone to go, you are good enough to play with these guys. You don't need to panic. This is what you need to do. Everything's where it needs to be. I think that's a massive thing.
Yeah, and that's the power behind having a good coach. Because to coach somebody, it's so much more than just the technique.
Yeah.
In actual fact, the technique is probably a much smaller portion of it than people think.
Yeah.
It's about managing the man, managing the athlete, managing the person.
Yeah.
Who is Mike? Who is so-and-so? What is happening off the course? Are things good there? Are we settled? Is life good? What does Mike need from me, the person Mike?
100%.
Does he need to get a kick up his arse and be like, hey, fucking shine up, China? Or does he need the softer touch to be like, buddy, you good, bro?
Yeah.
Everything's fine.
Yeah.
You cool. Just wait. Next week.
Like when I came back from that event in Melbourne back to Joburg, when I landed, you sent a message and you said, make sure you're in the gym within 24 hours. Because you need to recalibrate and get everything back on track, because it's a bit of a nightmare traveling that far. But you need people in your life as a professional sportsman to say, right, you need to do A, B, and C. Just make sure you do them.
Yeah.
Like, as simple as that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think having a good team around you, and it can be from the smallest things to the biggest things. Just having people to check in from the outside, because it can become overwhelming trying to kind of do it all on your own.
Exactly. The Australian Open and how you approach that, and with the crowds, I mean, it was a wonderful tournament. It was wonderful to watch too.
Yeah.
But that is a perfect example to me of somebody changing their default setting. I don't know if you would have been able to respond like that 3 years ago.
Yeah, no, I
That is a changing of a default setting for
Without
me.
a doubt.
It's a great example.
Yeah. I think playing the Alfred Daniel Links a few months before that, and then playing in Saudi with, having a Dustin Johnson or, Louis and all the sort of the big names in golf being around you, you become more comfortable. And I think for a professional sportsman, when you feel comfortable and you feel like, right, this is where I'm meant to be, then you can really achieve something and you can perform. And you'll see it with any sport, rugby, cricket, golf. Often guys will get hyped up and they are that good. But if you don't believe it yourself, you're not going to do well.
Yeah.
And I've had that for the last 10 years. I've had so many people saying, but your golf swing's so good. And, I played with you on Thursday and you shot 64. You're as good as anyone in the world. But I'm going home that day going, like, I've had one top 10 on the Sunshine Tour. I'm not that good, things aren't that great. But when you start getting to that stage where you say, I can compete with these guys, I can beat anybody on my day, I think that's when you're at home, you're comfortable, and you can achieve something because it's not overwhelming anymore.
You mentioned fun earlier. Is this as much fun as you've had in your professional career?
Yeah, definitely. I've always been the type of person that likes, I don't want to say being in the limelight, but like in Australia, playing in front of that many people, I'm so comfortable and I get so focused that I feel like I can achieve. So for me, that is fun, and it's fun to entertain, and it's fun to pull off a miraculous shot in front of like lots of people. Like that really is enjoyable, and it's reward for years and years of hard graft. So yeah, and getting to play the events that I'm getting to play in now is stuff that I've dreamed of since turning pro, and it's stuff I've seen and watched, and I've had friends doing it. Now I'm getting to do it, and it is really, really awesome.
That's fantastic,
Yeah.
man. To wrap up, if you had to speak to yourself 10 years ago, where you're at now, if you had to go back and speak to Mike, and you can take your pick in your year 2015, 2014, whenever, what advice would you give to yourself then?
Don't be too serious about things, and I would also disregard a lot of the advice that I had been given from both coaching and from listening to like some older pros who kind of thought they had been there and done that. Like I said earlier, you don't need to practice for 10 hours a day. If I had the same attitude 10 years ago and I'd gone about playing professional golf the way I do now, I think I would have maybe had more success earlier on. I think I tried to be too perfect, and golf is not a game of perfect. You can't
To steal Bob Rotella's
yeah,
line.
you cannot perfect this game. You can work at it, and you can try and do things the way that you feel may be perfect for you, but there's no one blueprint that works for golf. Everyone's got their own way about doing things. I honestly, I can't look back and go, I wish I didn't party so much and I didn't drink, because I've never been that type of person. I've always been focused on what I wanted to do, but I think I was too hard on myself. I think I tried too hard, whereas I feel like I try less now.
Do you try less because you feel like you've got less to prove to yourself or to other people?
Yeah, I do think that. I think, not a youngster, because I wasn't a youngster when I turned pro. Like I said, I was 25, but it was almost because when I started and I turned pro, I had a few good results early on in my career. And like I said earlier, you got people telling you how good you are, and you should be doing this and you should be doing that. That's where I think trying too hard sort of comes from, and trying to impress people, and like I don't really care now. that is literally the kind of mindset I have.
Freedom.
Yeah.
Coming back to freedom.
Everyone says to me now, "Oh, you're obviously going to stop coaching." No, I'm not going to stop coaching. Today's Wednesday. On Friday, I've got lessons booked. I'm going to coach. I'm going to come here on Monday. We're going to train. I'm going to do my practice. I'm going to go back to the driving range and teach some people. That's where I'm at. I've got the kids. I've got our business. I've got my wife, my family. Everyone's around. I'm not trying to impress anyone. I'm just doing my thing. If I do really well at it, brilliant. But I have a formula for what has been working. So, I'm not going to change it.
Don't change it.
No.
100%.
Yeah.
Is there anything you've changed your mind on recently?
Man United are not back. They're still bad, and it's still killing me. No, I haven't changed my mind on much. I still believe in the same things that I always have believed in, and I'm so grateful for the opportunities that I've got coming up. I've got such an exciting start to the year in January. So, like I say, I'll just carry on doing the same things that I have been doing. I'm not looking for any change.
Yeah.
I just one foot in front of the other, and we'll see where we get to.
Sticking to the process.
Yeah.
Mike, thanks so much, man.
Cool.
Thank you, Clint. It's been a pleasure to watch you evolve over the last 2 years in particular.
Yeah, thanks.
And I know how much this means to you, and I know as your family's expanded, I know how much it means to everybody.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful to have been a part of that in some small way.
Yeah.
But to be able to see Mike the person progress, has been a really exciting thing to watch from the sidelines. So kudos to you, well done, and thank you for taking time out last day of 2025 to come on the show.
Thank you for all your effort in the last 2 years. We've done some good work, and we'll carry on doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay.
Thanks, Clint.
Hey everyone. A huge amount of work and effort goes into producing this podcast, whether it's from the research going into the episode, whether it's finding the guests coming to the location, or them being online, to producing the content, edited and putting it in a format that is conducive to your ears and your eyes. And it goes a really, really long way if you can just do me one thing in return for this free content: share it. Share it far and wide, and if you find an episode useful, send it to someone who might feel the same way. That's all. Thanks a million. See you next week.